Hey, hi. We were just together in the other realm. Good to see you here. What I'm going to do is to give a little kind of conversational piece and then on this video, and then we'll meet on the whiteboard and collaborate. But what I wanted to try to demonstrate to you to get you familiar with was the history of teen magazines for girls. Actually, this is a list of teen magazines, and as far as I could tell, there was only one magazine on here that was geared for boys, and it is Boys Life, and this is the Scouting magazine. Other than that, boys are not part of the scene, if you will, with teenage magazines. Boys look at magazines that are for men. So hunting, fishing, golf, football, Sports Illustrated, around shared activities with men. Girls and women's magazines are developmentally layered. So we get some of our earlier magazines in life, such as Tiger Beat, and I'll just hang over this for a minute. So we'll look at an actual Tiger Beat in a second here. Teen Beat, Tiger Beat. Here's the Teen Beat, American Magazine, up to 2007. And where is our Tiger Beat? Here is Tiger Beat. That edition there is from 1965, so it started in 65. And of course, many of these magazines are just turning into be online only. So what are we to take away from this? That we have age layering. This is for 13 to 19-year-old girls, and a J14 is for 11 to 19-year-old girls. And some of these magazines pitch a little bit of a younger audience. As time goes on, there are alternative types of magazines. So this one is for LGBT youth. I think Shameless is the one magazine that's for, it's Canadian, but is feminist and anti-oppressive practice perspective for girls and trans youth. Other than that, what we're looking at here is a field of magazines for girls developmentally layered out. Now, we know that as we get older, there are women's magazines. So not only are we socialized early in life, the socialization keeps rolling out. Oddly, of course, while the boys are looking at Sports Illustrated, golfing, football, basketball related magazines, I don't think the 11 to 13 or 14-year-old girls are interested in magazines about housekeeping, women's journal, recipes, so on and so forth. So I'll leave that in your head for a moment as we transition over to a current issue of Tiger Beat to see if we can analyze it a little bit. So the questions in our head at this point are: one, why are they developmentally layered for girls and not for boys? Two, what is the layering? What does it consist of? And has it moved progressively as we've gone from decade to decade to decade, or has it stayed with the same tropes, themes, ideas, imagery, careers for time immortal? Let's take a look at this Tiger Beat and see if we can come up with some conclusions. The first thing I see when we look at the current issue of Tiger Beat is sort of this image. The first thing that hits me, of course, is this image of this very stereotyped looking actress who's wearing a costume. So you have the very narrow waist, you have the hips, the accenting of her hips with this belt. So this traditional type of breast line or scape. As we roll down, we're going to start to see some of these categories that are standard play across all the teen magazines that I looked at from the United States, at least. On that Wikipedia list, there are magazines from Japan and from Canada. I saw some maybe that looked like they were from France. But we're going to just stick with the American ones for right now. So if you look over here, all the times Emma Chamberlain has gotten super real about mental health. At first, when I looked at that, I thought that was about the real girl, which has always been a trope within these magazines. There's always like this imagery in the girls that are movie stars and groups and pop stars, and then the real girl. And then I looked at a little bit more, because I have a 20-year-old in my house. And she said, you got to look at Emma Chamberlain. And so I did. Let's watch her for a minute. And not only is Emma Chamberlain a YouTube star, she's across Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, but she has almost 10 million subscribers. So it's sort of a funny play on Real Girl. Here's a girl that acts like a real person, but is I read her net worth is maybe $8 million. Let me move from one microphone to another. Let's take a look and see if I can capture some of her for you.
Wow, the lighting is kind of beautiful. So this is the funniest shit I've ever seen. It's soup though. Wait, oh, is that soup? This is the soup. I'm kind of scared of that, but anyway. Cream of corn. Kind of good, actually. I'm gonna give the cream of corn like an 8 out of 10 because I normally hate cream of corn and this is not bad. I'm gonna commend their service. Waiter walked in, such an angel. I mean, just like was so polite and awesome. So that was a great experience. So definitely 10 out of 10 on service. Next, I'm eating this cauliflower. Bread. This might give me diarrhea, but the cream of corn is gonna do that on its own. So might as well just hit me while I'm down. You know what I mean?
Okay, so here we have Emma Chamberlain being Real Girl, talking about her digestive issues, kind of just casual. Of course, she's sitting in an $850 a night Waldorf Astoria in LA hotel room, so there's the rub. So is she in fact a real girl? And are young people, Gen Zs, kind of aware enough to understand that and to know who she is and to ignore her as Real Girl? So interesting. Is it a trick by Tiger Beat to sort of portray this real girl? She's natural. She doesn't wear makeup. She talks about diarrhea, I guess. Or is this like a hip joke with Gen Zs that she's in fact not a real girl? Something for you to think about. All of these magazines across, certainly when I was looking at them in the 60s, I would say, well, 70s actually, I would say have sort of, this one's themed for Halloween, so sort of popular people. So you have Billie Eilish here. You have over here announces a new era, teases a sophomore, blah, blah, blah. So we have sort of our famed folks. And we can scroll down here and look at a quiz. So there's always a quiz in these magazines also. Does this mean that girls are driven towards these magazines to understand their identity? Is it a plain identity versus role confusion? Or is it more about cultural stereotypes about what girls should be narrowly thinking about for the past 50 years? Why are girls always taking these quizzes? I know I took these quizzes, and it's almost 50 years ago. So these magazines have not changed their format, one, because they work, but what's the damages of them? We could be very kind of superficial and say, oh, this is about girls and they look stereotyped and everyone looks exactly the same. Or we can start to think about really still the lack of opportunities for real power, for real expression of self-worth, for real career development, for girls talking about being good friends and sticking together versus kind of cultural tropes which suggest that girls should fight against one another for a popular other. Maybe Gen Zs would say the popular other, it doesn't really matter who this is. It's not quite as rigid as in past generations. So when we go back to the whiteboard, I'll have the whiteboard up, and what I want you to do is to write a little bit. Did you take these magazines? Did you take the quizzes? If you're not a girl or a woman, were you aware of these magazines? Did you wish there was magazines like this for yourself? If you can remember the names of the magazines, even the joy that they brought you, and how can you characterize that joy? All right, thank you so much.